Thanks to Baron of Dice, Grey Matter Gaming, and Monument Hobbies for sponsoring this video. Aeldari arrived in 10th edition flat out busted, dominating top tables with Wraith Knights, Fate Dice, and several varieties of elf bullshit. The faction's been pulled back an awful lot since, remaining viable but not quite so dominant with their broadly useful Battle Host detachment. Today they get the opportunity to cosplay as Astra Militarum instead with their new Armoured Warhost detachment, which focuses on vehicles. As always, you can read more at goonhammer.com. Link in the description. Detachment Rule: Skilled Crews. Ranged weapons on Aeldari vehicles all gain assault, and Aeldari vehicles with fly can reroll advance rolls. Yep, that's it. Aeldari vehicles are already hypermobile with loads of long-range firepower, so trading off the Battle Host's built-in rerolls for this somewhat redundant ability is pretty underwhelming. There might be some play with Drukhari vehicles in a Ynnari detachment doing drive-bys, but first impressions are lukewarm over here, and that temperature doesn't get turned up much with these enhancements, which are situational at best. Guiding Presence lets one of your Psykers hand out +1 to hit rolls for a vehicle nearby. It's best on a Farseer Skyrunner so you can keep up with your armor, but it's pricey to start with. Harmonization Matrix lets a character generate an extra command point on a 3-up, provided they or their transport are controlling an objective. It's expensive, requires a character to be pretty much hiding in your deployment zone to be effective, and if you want cheap stratagems, the CP reduction on Autarchs is much more reliable. Spirit Stone of Raylith turns your Psyker into a Tech Marine, giving them lone operative near a vehicle and the ability to repair D3 wounds every command phase. Limiting it to Psykers means you've pretty much gotta stick it on a Farseer of one flavor or another, but it's a genuinely useful upgrade. Guileful Strategist is actually cooking with gas, letting you redeploy up to 3 units after deployment, including putting them into strategic reserves. Now this is the elf bullshit we came here for. This opens up a ton of opportunities for feints and misdirection, playing all kinds of games with your Warwalkers and messing with your opponent's plans. As is the theme here, the stratagems in this detachment are focused on vehicle synergies only. Bear in mind that without Battle Host, you're losing powerful abilities like Fire and Fade, Feigned Retreat, and Phantasm. Layered Wards gives a 5-up Feel No Pain against mortal wounds to one of your vehicles. Maybe it'll save them from a clutch use of grenades or tank shock, but Eldar vehicles aren't generally tough enough that mortal wounds are needed all that often to take care of them. This is super situational, and will probably do its best work against Thousand Suns or Haywire. Swift Deployment lets you get a unit out of a vehicle after advancing, but they can't charge. Useful for getting some fire dragons into melter range out of a falcon or wave serpent, or just dropping a unit onto an objective. That does mean your squishy troops are out in the open though, so be sure to kill whatever you're aiming for. Remember that this combos with the detachment ability to keep your transport shooting as well. Vectored Engines is Feigned Retreat, but worse. Instead of any Aeldari unit getting to fall back, shoot, and charge, Vectored Engines lets a vehicle with fly fall back and shoot. You'll still use it, but it's impossible to ignore that Battle Host has a flat-out better version of the exact same stratagem. Cloud Strike lets you deep strike a vehicle with fly anywhere more than 6 inches from an enemy unit, including any units that disembark from the vehicle. They can't charge afterwards, but deep striking a falcon full of fire dragons, and more crucially Fuegan, can ruin someone's day. Soul Sight is used on a vehicle that hasn't shot yet, letting them reroll a hit, a wound, and damage roll. This is solid, but it's hard to ignore that Battle Host just gives you the hit and wound rerolls for free. The damage part is new and appreciated, and so is the added wording in the rule about fast dice rolling. Anti-Grav Repulsion lets you debuff an enemy charge roll against one of your vehicles with fly by 2. It's a very good stratagem, particularly when paired with the effect of a Night Spinner. On the whole, these are some decent stratagems, but they suffer when compared to the raw power of what you get in the Battle Host detachment. To get the most out of this detachment, you mostly want to focus on options for vehicle units and what can work well with them. Since you're losing rerolls army-wide and Fire and Fade to protect key units like Fire Prisms, this detachment is going to push you into a limited set of options. Falcons, Night Spinners, and Warwalkers are your best bets here. A single Night Spinner is useful to help keep the opponent off your tanks and can do some real damage when you pair its ability with the Anti-Grav Repulsion stratagem. Vipers and Void Weavers may also be useful here for some cheaper picks. Another potential option is the Incarn, as Cloud Strike can deliver a deadly unit and force a teleport, but even at 6 inches, a big ol' Falcon hull isn't that hard to screen out. As written, this detachment seems to be designed with lots of aspect warriors and falcons and wave serpents in mind, but in execution, those end up feeling more like points fillers. It's going to be hard to play this army without thinking about how much more reliable Eldar are in the Battle Host detachment. If you want to go tank heavy, there are some interesting ideas here, but we believe the Battle Host detachment is still the better option. It might seem like formality, but let's go over the strengths and weaknesses anyway. strong redeployment and reserve synergies with Falcons and embarked characters and troops. Some of the fastest vehicles get slightly faster, offering increased threat ranges and the ability to secure shooting lanes. The Spirit Stone enhancement, its healing ability, and lone operative option. Now for the fall of the Eldar. Very narrow benefits and army synergies that will severely limit the variety of units you'll want to bring. It's difficult to safely deploy and maneuver a vehicle-heavy army, especially on GW layouts. Loss of post-action movement stratagems may result in an inability to protect key assets from return fire, rip to your fire prisms. While there are some neat ideas behind this detachment, it just doesn't really hang together. Even Aeldari armor enthusiasts will find more to love in the Battle Host detachment instead, and that allows a load more flexibility on top of this. Eldar are supposed to be about synergy between specialized units, and that just ain't happening here. What you've got is a detachment that focuses on a bunch of the less interesting units in the faction, excluding most of the stuff that give Aeldari their identity. Maybe the Codex will give this detachment some new context, but for the time being, even Aeldari treadheads will be better off with the Battle Host. If you're wondering how we'd bone weave this detachment into something usable, head on over to goonhammer.com for more analysis and a sample list. Or if you think we missed something, consider supporting us on Patreon so you can yell at us on Discord about how we're wrong. We'd also like to thank our sponsors, Baron of Dice, Monument Hobbies, and Grey Matter Gaming for sponsoring this video. I've been Kayla Mencha Campbell, respectfully pouring one out for my Eldar homies. Thanks for watching.